Hi everybody, thanks for joining us for Northern Ag TV. Well, last week I had the chance to attend the Montana Nutrition Conference in Bozeman and was able to sit down with CattleFax market analyst Matt McQuagge, who was the keynote speaker at the event. I asked Matt where we're at in the cattle cycle, if this is going to be the cycle low in terms of beef cow numbers, or if the industry is going to continue to contract.
We do still think that this is the cycle low in terms of beef cow numbers, but it's going to be a very modest increase at the beginning of next year. We have yet to see widespread active heifer retention, and a lot of that's just been due to lingering drought conditions. We thought we were doing a little bit better last spring, and then La Nina basically returned, and we've since shifted into more of a neutral weather pattern, but that still does not provide meaningful moisture that's necessary for a lot of these operations to start to increase their herd size.
Matt added that headwinds like drought, increased costs, high interest rates, and the increasing age of producer will likely slow the rate of expansion, which could keep prices elevated for longer, but he said price risk management will remain critical. Well, yesterday the CME group launched its new hard red spring wheat contract. Now that contract's going to be trading right alongside the benchmark Minneapolis hard red spring wheat that's been trading since 1883. USDA still uses the Minneapolis contract for reporting and determining loan prices, and it's hard to believe that it's sustainable to have two spring wheat contracts. Right now there's only a July CME spring wheat contract trading. It closed at 621 with a volume of just 30 trades, whereas yesterday the Minneapolis contract closed at 619 with a volume over 9,000. Well, Wyoming schools have more locally raised food available to them than ever before. That's due in part to the generous producers across the state, but also the Wyoming Department of Education's Farm to School program and program coordinator Bobby Lane. I caught up with Bobby recently and he told me about how they've been able to see such dramatic growth in the availability of locally raised food to Wyoming students.
It starts by connecting all the producers out there with the schools. I currently have 48 school districts that I work with across the state of Wyoming. A lot of producers are out there that are wanting to be involved. The big one, of course, is beef. Anywhere from cucumbers to lettuce to dry beans to sweet corn, you name it. In November of 23, I soon learned that we only had about 10% of the schools in the state participating in a local product. And we started working with the local producers, and we went from 1,976 meals served to 40,000 meals served.
And more than 10% of USDA's over 100,000 employees have reported to have accepted the second buyout offer from the executive branch just last week. The deferred resignation includes paid leave through September and is seen as a precursor to mandatory employment cuts coming later. Political reports that as many as 12,000 USDA employees have accepted the buyout. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back to dive into our ag markets right after this.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Talking with someone that you know is stressed out, those are difficult things to approach, but if you're good friends with those people, reach out and say, I'm here to talk to you. We can find somewhere to get some assistance. It's hard to get involved, but at the same time, you want to just say, hey, there is help available.
For more tips in dealing with stress in agriculture or for free counseling for egg producers, visit beyondtheweather.com.
Well, coming back to look at the market, the cattle futures are trying to battle back from some of the recent pressure related to tariffs and steep losses in the equities market. As you look at the fundamentals, it's going to take some time to rebuild this cow herd, but concern about the effects of tariffs on international demand and the potential for recession have definitely been felt in the futures. Yesterday, we saw the feeders gain back $2 to $3, where live cattle were mostly $1 to $2 higher. In the cash-fed cattle trade, we were down $3 to $4 last week on live deals from $204 to $210. Dress trade 8 to 9 weaker from $325 to $330. However, as we look at our local markets, we saw exceptionally strong prices for grass cattle at St. Onge Livestock, and hardly believe that 385 pound steers sold for $5.15, some 424 pounders at $4.98, most of the 5-weight steers $3.70 to $3.87. Steady prices on the way up cattle in Torrington, where most of the cows are bringing $140 to $151, slaughter bulls selling $171 to $178. And the wheat market, particularly spring wheat, did rally back last week, but started this week out with steep pressure, losing 8 to 13 cents. We had that bearish USDA report for wheat last week that forecasts U.S. stocks to rise on reduced use, increased imports, and decreased exports. Here's hoping, though, that the weather will cooperate in this critical time frame for crops, because the market sure isn't offering a lot of help right now. Thanks for joining us this morning. For the Northern Ag Network, I'm Colter Brown.